Hello, hello! I'm Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through writing metaphors. This is the last episode of Season 3. To commemorate that milestone, I'm continuing with a viewer request to showcase how I used IngramSpark to publish my debut novel. If you watched my video last week about how I used Reedsy to format and edit my manuscript, IngramSpark functions in much the same way for editing manuscripts. The primary difference is that the goal of IngramSpark is publishing and distribution, whereas Reedsy was more of finding professional editors. I've noticed a lot of misconceptions and confusion about IngramSpark's features and pricing, so I want to run through my experiences. I'll start by saying I've heard people complain how it's $50 to upload and then $25 to make each additional change. Yes, that's true for the first part. To upload is $50 for both ebook and print copies, and to make a revision is $25. However, all subsequent revisions are free. Trust me, I had plenty of revisions to make. I tweaked my novel every week between when I uploaded it and when it was published. Then I added a few more chapters after it was officially published. Well, I didn't pay any additional costs to perform those changes, and I made quite a few. Everyone I spoke to about this thought it was $25 to make each change, and I want to clarify how much I paid. Still, $75 is more expensive than other alternatives for publishing, such as draft to digital. I did need to pay for my physical paperback author copies, which I use for ARCs. This makes sense, and the only reason I mention this is because there was a price difference between these author editions and the published book. The author copies were $7.66 each, and once published, all the copies cost me $6.68, not including shipping. I'm not sure why the author copies cost more to print versus a first edition. They were the same quality and page count, so I'm not sure where this difference comes from or why the price would drop after publishing. Moving on, in terms of process flow, I liked writing in Word and then using Reedsy to create a formatted version, which I uploaded to IngramSpark. My personal opinion is that there were small nuances I liked better about Reedsy versus IngramSpark in terms of the books they generated. I liked IngramSpark's table of contents chapter list layouts better, whereas I liked Reedsy's drop cap functionality for the first letter in each chapter. I wish I could mix and match some of these customizations, but honestly the differences are trivial, so to each their own. For this demo, I'm going to be importing the second book of my Into the Void series. I'll be refining it over the next few months as I work with professional editors, so many of the details I'll likely fuzz during this demo, and once I'm done, I'll include the gotchas I've uncovered between now and when I upload this video. This is the IngramSpark landing page. You can see in the main panel how there's the various books I have available, which includes 2 different versions of my debut novel, Falling Through. This is the paperback version and the EPUB version. If I had set up a hard copy, that would also be there. This is very important to distinguish because each of these needs their own ISBN number, and they are sold in different places. So Amazon separates them out between the paperback and the EPUB version. So IngramSpark helps me manage them kind of individually, which is important to distinguish. You can also see that there are the units sold. Now, IngramSpark does something weird where everything's combined together into print units sold. I know I've sold ebooks, but those aren't listed here. And I think I would need to go into my Amazon console to see exactly how many I've sold. It's nothing difficult to manage. It just means I get less information than I would like, and it's an odd thing to report on from IngramSpark. Hi everyone, Ben here. I wanted to interrupt my own video to say thank you. You saw on the previous screen that I had over 100 sales. That was a very long-term goal for me, and I didn't expect to get there certainly within the first month. I thought it would take me at least 3, maybe 4, if I was lucky. And you all helped me exceed those expectations, which is an incredible feeling. I want to thank all of you, whether it's in the Discord channels where we've been talking about Falling Through and the characters and everything that means so much to me. And you all have been asking such interesting questions about the story, and it is an incredible feeling to answer all of your questions about something which I love and something which I have enjoyed sharing with the world. That is an incredible feeling for me, and I just want to say thank you. I only managed to achieve that based on the incredibly supportive community that we have here in Authortube and in real life and at work and everywhere. So all of you who have helped me get here, who have talked to me about my story, who have promoted it in your own videos and channels and social media, thank you. This is beyond my wildest expectations or goals or anything like that, and I'm excited for what the future has in store for my Into the Void series. I have talked to so many of you out there and have received nothing but encouragement, which is exciting and feeds my own positive energy so that I am ready to keep writing and editing and getting more stories out there. And so I want to thank all of you for watching and for praising Falling Through and for just being incredible. Anyways, enough of this sentimental moment. You're here to watch me walk you through the uploading of my next title. So I scroll down from the homepage, or you can also do this in the titles menu. It's the exact same thing. But right here is this uploaded title. You can do print and ebook for $49. You can do print book only for $49. And you can do ebook only for $25. I don't know why anybody would only do the print only book, but that feels like something that was legacy from when the price difference mattered. Anyways, just to show you, I can also do this in titles. It's almost the exact same information on this page where you can see the titles I have, although this time instead of recent, it's all the titles I have. Because I have a limited catalog, the numbers are the same, so I only have Falling Through both versions. There's also the same uploaded title feature. You can see right here that the prices are identical from what they were on the homepage, and I'm going to just start. IngramSpark has two ways that you can publish. The first is if you have everything already set. So for example, if you created the manuscript and you used Readsy to format it exactly how you want, and you designed a cover that you really like. If that's the case and you have all the files you need, you can use IngramSpark to upload the interior and the cover, and then use it for mass distribution, where IngramSpark is nothing more than the medium that you're using to distribute, and you already have everything in place for the manuscript for what will be the novel. If on the other hand, you don't have the interior or the cover, or you're missing pieces, or you want to individually see what you're publishing beforehand, you can use IngramSpark's book creation features to design the interior exactly as you want, and then you can even create a custom cover. The first thing I'm going to do is demo the steps to upload when you already have all the files ready to go. These options are fairly straightforward, and then I know I want to do both a print and ebook as I did for the first book in the series, and so I'm just going to move forward. I do have my files ready to upload somewhat, so I'm going to click this. I have a version of the manuscript ready, though that's going to change considerably. Tomorrow I'm getting the feedback from the editor, and I'm going to make some considerable changes to the manuscript. What that means is I'm going to have to go through later on and re-import all these things again, or copy and paste them, or however I want to do it, so that the changes I make following the editor's comments will be implemented in the end version. I also don't have a print jacket or cover, but I'm going to say that I do because I'm going to add it later. All I really have is the EPUB. I want to print, distribute, and sell my book. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to hit continue. Okay, first things first. I went externally to get a new ISBN through Bowker, and I entered that in here. I also don't really have a good title, so this is the one I'm working with now. It's called Falling Into Shadow. I'm probably going to change that, but for right now it works. Pretty basic stuff for clicking through. We do need to answer some basic questions about the content of my book. This way I can ensure that I'm not misusing certain trademark or copyright material, such as I'm not writing an expose about somebody from, I don't know, the Coca-Cola company or something along those lines, or I don't have a Nike CEO or Amazon or Jeff Bezos who is doing something wildly inappropriate in my book. So everything in my book I have a legal right to include, I hope, as far as I'm aware. Here are some additional pieces of information. I tend to do this after the fact, but I can always include that here. Can't hurt, and in worst case I can always change it later because I'm not publishing immediately. I entered in my name, and you definitely didn't see anything that would have been sensitive about the home address that I live at. I'd rather not give any of this information. I can include my biography later, so I don't want to include that here. Trying to remember what my imprint is, if I'm doing it as Writing to Write or as Ben Pick. I think I'm just sticking with Ben Pick. I'm going through fiction. I want to try and find urban fiction, or urban fantasy rather. And let's see what we have. Yep, this is a match for what I did with the first book in the series. Think select audience. If New Age is available, I'd like to choose that. Although, let me see here. I think Trade General is the easiest to do. There's a little bit of swearing, so I don't want to do quite young adult. So I'm going to go with this Trade General. This is a description I used. I don't have a back blurb yet, so I'm going to need to do that later. But for right now, this works. It's a very quick and short summary of what this book will entail. Obviously, I need to change it later. Here are a few random keywords that I'm including about the story. I think these are largely the same things I went for in the first book, but I'm going to have to cross-reference them later, so I'm definitely going to change these. Again, this is all kind of a template to just have the information down, and I will absolutely refine it between now and when this book gets published. I'm sticking with the same settings I had before, so 5.5 by 8.5. I think that's the default, whatever it is. It's either type A or type B. Those are what I'm going with. So I want this to be a normal, quote-unquote, normal-sized book. Again, I'm trying to keep everything as consistent as possible with the first book in the series, as I really liked how it all turned out. Definitely want to have black and white for the interior, as there's no color images to show. I'm sticking with cream. I like cream a little bit better than white. White seems far too pale for my interests, and cream gives a nice balance. I've had a few requests for people to get a hardback, though that costs far too much for it to really feel worth the effort. Maybe one day I'll go for it, but for right now, I'm sticking with just the paperback. I like the glossy finish. I'm all about shiny. My intention is to have the book match as much as possible the customizations that I had for the first book, so I'm repeating everything I did here. Unfortunately, I don't know what the page count is, so I'm just going to fuzz this, and we'll say it's 368. That's the same number as the first book. It should be less, as there's about 10,000 fewer words, or 7,000 fewer words, but this is good for a placeholder. This is an important page, so don't fuzz through these details. Based on how much it costs to make my book, I set my retail price in the United States for $9.99. That gives me the compensation of $56 for each sale. These other features are important to consider as they impact how my book gets sold to various other markets. For example, if I'm selling one book at a time, I can sell it for $9.99 and I'll get 56 cents back. If, however, I were trying to sell to Barnes & Noble and they wanted to get a discount for, 20 to 100 books, they will only get a 30% discount, which is not really in their favor. The default for these is usually 55%, which, if you can see, will result in a loss of each sale. So what that means is I set this to 35% because it balances out what I can sell my book for and how it can be discounted to resellers. It's important to note what to do in the event of a return. IngramSpark offers 3 different options for returns. The first is non-returnable, in which the retailer can't send this back at all. The next up is Yes Deliver, where the returns will be sent to IngramSpark and then sent back to me. This will come at a cost where I will need to pay for the wholesale that the retailer already paid, along with all shipping and handling costs. The bonus or benefit of this is that I will get that copy of my book back and then can resell it. However, I don't know the condition of the book. The last option is Yes Destroy, where the book will be sent back to IngramSpark and it will then be destroyed by IngramSpark. I won't get the book to then resell or anything like that, but I will not be responsible for the shipping and handling of getting that book back to IngramSpark. The only thing I need to worry about is handling the wholesale cost of my book. I feel that the Yes Destroy option is a good balance between allowing the retailers to get some money back for books that want to be returned versus having to pay a considerable amount of money to ship this either back to IngramSpark and then to myself or to have it shipped wherever. I also don't have room in my house for a whole lot of inventory, so I don't want to have the option for Yes Deliver. I also settled on my wholesale discounts by making it something that I feel is reasonable while also still allowing me to get some kind of profit from this. Now, unfortunately, in Australia, you can see I'm only getting 2 cents for each sale, so I'm going to bump this one up to $17. Sorry, Australia. I hope you like ebooks. Then, because I'm giving a discount of less than 55%, it will limit what bookstores want to buy my book. I also need to accept that when I select Yes Destroy, it means that the books might be shipped back to IngramSpark, where they'll be then destroyed. So by not choosing yes deliver, I'm no longer accepting books being returned. That's going to be handled outside of myself. But I also won't get those books back where I could then resell them. I also need to accept some information about the pricing, where everything is in the local pricing. So this is $9.99 American. This is $9.99 pounds. I do want to allow people to look inside the book, so I'm going to select this. I don't want to have a large text option because that means that the book will be considerably larger, and that could drive up the cost of producing it without increasing the price. So that means I might actually end up losing money on large text editions. Right to left content doesn't apply for me, so I'm not going to select it. I choose my print release date, which will be December 3rd, hopefully. And then I continue. Again, I'm kind of making up the details that'll be picked out later. I want to choose $3.99. These are all based on values from the first ebook, and I found they worked out pretty well. You can see that everything auto-populated once I entered in the first row, and that works out well for me. Yeah, everything matches up pretty good, so I'm going to stick with these. I just verified it with the previous book. Publication date is going to be the same day as the paperback, and so I choose December 3rd. I can sell this ebook anywhere in the world, and I choose yes. Now it's time to actually upload my book. What I'm going to do here is upload the interior. Alright, it won't let me continue until I get something for the print cover and the ebook cover image. What I'm going to do is just copy and paste from the first book. Again, right now it's all placeholders, so I'm going to fix this later. Huzzah! No errors! That's a typo. Let me go back and change that one. Only took me 2 tries to spell 2 correctly. Now it takes a second for it to go through. So everything I did up to this point was just a demo to show how to do it if I already had the files I wanted to use for my manuscript. Specifically, if I wanted to take what Reedsy has and insta-publish it. The alternative is to use IngramSpark's tools to create the manuscript from scratch. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be completely from scratch, as it can import other additional files, such as the one I created from Reedsy. I started on the title page where there was a create button, and that allowed the entire process to begin very seamlessly. I don't want their walk through me thing, because I've done this before. These are the various features of the book that I need to select as I go through and create everything from scratch. That includes the title, that includes the distribution method, and everything leading up to the type of paper being used. First, I choose the trim size, which is 5.5 by 8.5. I'm going to go with a paperback. I want the black and white. I want the cream colored paper type. And I want the gloss finish. These are all the same things I had selected before when I was doing this differently, and I wasn't using IngramSpark to create my book. And this looks somewhat similar to what I did with Reedsy. I'm going to upload what I have, which takes in a PDF or ebook. I have both. There are a lot of different examples for what I can do for formats and style. I think I went with the basics for this one. Just generic Austin layout, which is what I like the most. And here we go. This is going to be sped up, so that way you don't need to sit here and wait for the little spinning thing to go through. But again, that took less than 2 minutes to get done, so kudos for uploading everything as I wanted it to. Each of these sections shows exactly what I want. It's got all the text as I have it typed, and I can customize it so that I can have the point of view be aligned as I want. I can also save, and I can preview it in the right panel to see exactly how it'll look. That looks pretty good, although I don't want the number 1 and prologue to be there, so I need to make a change there. Okay, I think I gotta do this back at the main thing. So what I'm doing right here, you can see that there's the 1 and prologue, which I don't like, so I'm going to close this down. I can either hit save and quit or just regular. Much like in Reedsy, if I move a chapter which isn't a real chapter, such as the prologue, to the front text, it will get grouped accordingly, and then everything else will auto-adjust in terms of chapter headings. So now emergency broadcast will be the first chapter. It is a bit of a pain in that I'm going to need to manually go through and put each of these point of views at the center, but that's perfectly fine. Not too much of an issue. Bit of a manual step, but I don't know a better way of doing it. Once I save, I can click PDF preview to view it. I don't want to have the title there, and I gotta go back and fix that. IngramSpark has 3 great options I can add in right here: dedication, copyright, and author bio. I'm going to add all of them. The copyright goes first, then comes the dedication, then comes the contents, then comes the prologue. I can add in my own customizations, which I'm going to do. Add in the copyright. I'm going to change the dedication now too. I don't want this showing up in the table of contents, so I'm going to remove it from there. Otherwise it would. I want this lower on the page, so I tend to hit a few returns beforehand. I might just use a regular text note because I don't like this box around it. I didn't use the dedication feature in the first book, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and do what I did before, which means I'm going to delete that here. This is copied from the first book. I also included a few images, which I'll be including here. There's the QR code that I wanted to add, and everything gets saved. Looks pretty good over there. I like it. Also really important, I want to make sure that this doesn't go on to the next page. I like the flow going from the half title to the full page title to the copyright to the dedication to the contents and then to the prologue. Also, acknowledgments should go above about the author. I'm going to make an executive decision right here where I'm not going to include this as a chapter, instead have it explicitly be about the author, the section. What it means is that I'm changing how I want to present my information within the book. That's good. It means my process is evolving over time. When I'm ready and I want to move forward, I'm going to press the page count. That will automatically upload everything and will update the pricing because it knows how many pages this will take up. Now that I have everything set, I can move on to the next step. That will be the cover. IngramSpark has a couple of different layouts I can choose from that I can further customize. I, however, am not going to use any of these as I plan to hire an external cover artist through Meeble Art. That's what I did for the first book. And so for this demo purpose, I'm going to upload the file I used for the first book. I'll later replace this, but again, this is walking you through the process I would use when publishing. Unfortunately, to move forward, I need to choose a layout. The first thing I'm going to do is try and remove as much of this as possible. What I'm going to do is upload a full image. I want to use this as the background for the full cover because it stretches from the front to the spine to the back. Sometimes this can be a bit of a pain as it's not very user-friendly. It's got the front cover, the spine, the back blurb, and the barcode. I can even highlight each of these different aspects of the book. By applying the show bleed safety, I can see exactly how the book will look when it's folded. I can see right here, this is the spine, this is the back, and this is the front. This gives me a very good representation of how the book will visually feel once it's fully formed and folded. Once I save it, I can just go through and finally approve my book. There are multiple steps along the way, so the first thing I need to do is approve the basics like the ISBN and EISBN for the print and ebook. I want to make sure the name is spelled correctly. They didn't make a mistake as I was typing too quickly, and everything looks good here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit approve. Now for the interior, it's going to generate a file for me to look over. This should be a PDF to download. Take just a few minutes. This will be a little bit longer in terms of the process as it's got to do a lot, namely generating into a PDF. And this looks pretty good. This is the generative file. The first page, there's the half page, the copyright page, the dedication, which I want to remove the words dedication on there, so I'm going to have to go back and change that later. The contents, everything looks good. Prologue is there. We have the prologue right here, so we can skip ahead all the way to the end. And everything looks good. You have the acknowledgments section. Again, I'm not having the about the author right up there, so I might enlarge this picture, or I might enlarge the QR code. I have options now that I'm not wasting so much space up top for the about the author chapter title. Once I review everything in here, it all looks good. I just say I approve. Now I'm going to look over the cover one last time to make sure everything visually works as I want it. There's the generated file, and I get to look it over. I can see right here that the template I applied carried through, and I need to go back and delete that. This is clearly not what I want. You can see Ben Pick and Falling Shadows. You can see a combination of the image I used as well as the template I created. That's very bad, and I'll have to go back and change that. In this case, this is what I don't want, so I'm going to have to go back and edit the cover. Honestly, IngramSpark is not the most user-friendly, and a lot of the things it does not do well. All I did was deselect all of these in terms of view, and that should work. I delete and hide everything I don't want. Now that everything's saved, I'm going to go back through and export. Yes, this all looks good. I already reviewed the interior, and I'm going to continue. I review the cover because I want to make sure that everything I did took and that there's no signs of the template in the final version. This looks good. It has everything I want. There's no hidden text on the cover, the spine, or the back. I approve. Now I do the exact same thing for the ebook and the cover. So it generates an EPUB file for me to review, and then it generates the cover. And look at that. Book 1 looks great. Meanwhile, everything looks good so far for book 2. I can see the copyright. I can see the title page. I can see that I skipped over the table of contents because I don't want to give away spoilers before this book gets published. That being said, this right here is the first page of the prologue, and it looks good. I've already looked through this offline, and I think that everything checks out. So I'm going to move ahead and approve this within IngramSpark. Everything looks good, and I hit continue. Now comes the final step, finish book. And this is everything I showed beforehand, where I'm going to go through the title info, the print info, the ebook, the upload, the validation, and then finally the payment. I'm not going to show those final steps as I walk through everything right up until the final submission. Right now, I want to keep this nebulous, and I don't want to fully publish this book. That being said, I'm going to show how I updated my current published work, so that way you can see the exact same process without me needing to go through and complete payment for a book that I'm not actually going to publish at the moment, because I got a lot of changes to make and everything about it is more or less wrong. The cover is for the first book, even though this is the second. A lot of the details I'm about to change following a professional editor's comments. This is more of a template and a walkthrough to show how to go through the process while stopping just before I hit the complete button. There are plenty of gotchas I've learned since publishing. For example, IngramSpark doesn't integrate well with Amazon KDP. I published through IngramSpark, and that handled all of the Amazon details for me, which means that I was not included in KDP. Unfortunately for me and marketing, Amazon KDP has a lot of great features which are integrated into their UI, such as price specials or even providing a download link to a free version of their book. Those are for marketing purposes, and yes, I ran into an issue when trying to share my book with a book club because of the limitations of IngramSpark. I wasn't able to work with KDP to get them a free download link or anything like that because IngramSpark is extremely limited in what it can do. Because I published through IngramSpark to distribute through Amazon, I couldn't partake in the Amazon marketing tools. There was an option for me to unpublish my novel and republish it through KDP, but the Amazon help was unclear whether that would require me to exclusively distribute through KDP, and neither Amazon nor IngramSpark actually knew the steps to take to do that. By publishing through IngramSpark, it opened up a lot of issues where my books may fall through the cracks in terms of features and distribution to help promote, where neither the publisher, IngramSpark, or the distributor, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, whomever, will know exactly how to resolve my issue. That is a really shitty situation to be in, and I'm sort of working through it right now and trying to manage it as best I can. There are a lot of marketing tools that I'm using right now, though none of these work well with what IngramSpark has. So it's almost like everything I'm doing for marketing is completely separate from the distribution and publishing that I've set up. For example, I set up to run a Facebook ad using my teaser trailer. Because of how I set that up, Facebook rejected the ad, and I currently have a restriction on my account, even though when I set up for a manual review, they approved it and said that it was their mistake. Though it's been a week and they haven't done that. I've reached out to Facebook. There's not really a way of doing that, so I'm just sort of, again, lost in this nebulous area of unknown. Really sucks. I may plan to start next season with a video about creating all these various ads or how not to create a Facebook ad, which isn't associated with KDP or IngramSpark or anything that I'm doing exclusively for publishing. If I do that, I'll show the problems I ran into and why I think my ad was rejected on Facebook and my page was temporarily banned. Basically what it means is I created the ad first and then created the page afterwards and immediately linked that ad with the page that I created, and I think that set off a bunch of alerts. Who knows? Facebook really doesn't. Anyways, as an update, Facebook rescinded the issue, and I think it's because I created the ad, then realized I needed to link it to the page. This whole thing is a giant learning process. Unlike with Amazon KDP or plenty of other distributors, the only way I can change my pricing to make it go on sale is to manually change everything in this giant table. It's a real hassle. I'm going to be running some marketing campaigns during September, and so I'm going to be dropping the price from $3.99 to $9.99. Hopefully it works out and I get a whole bunch of sales. But again, IngramSpark does not make this easy to do. So if you do go through and publish with IngramSpark, be aware that any marketing or sales or discounts are a bit of a hassle to set up and arrange. These can only be set to start on Fridays, and they have to last for a full week at a minimum. Little nuance of IngramSpark. As I didn't walk through the full process to hit that publish or complete button for the second book, I'm going to show what I did for the first book, in that I had a QR code that I wanted to add to the end of it, and this will walk through the process I used to change the About Me page in the published version of Falling Through. The first thing I'm going to do is select one of these options and links through the titles. That will get me to the editing page. I click on the ebook info and then edit my files. Once here, it shows me the full details for both the print and ebook versions. I don't want to change anything about the paperback format itself, in that I like the cream colored paper and the cover finish of gloss. So I'm going to skip right to the interior. This looks just like it did for the editing in book 2. There's the text insert for the dedication page. I don't want to change any of this. You can see right here that the table of contents is not selected, so that way the dedication page will not show up in the auto-generated table of contents. That's just a little gotcha that I had when I was working through the first book. Moving on to the About the Author page, it is set as a chapter type, which means that it will show up within the table of contents and the content title will be included as About the Author. Here I am changing the URL and updating the QR code. This is fairly intuitive as I click through everything and set the file to be small and centered. That way it won't take up too much space and will all fit on one page. I don't want the About Me page to expand to more than one page, as that doesn't look good. One other thing to note in that the URL appears to have been updated, except when you look at what the actual link is, it goes to the old QR code page. In order to update this, I had to go to the Insert Edit link, and you can see that I'm changing that here. I'm highlighting the URL code, the URL text, and I change it to the updated text, where it's now a MailChimp link, and I change the text associated with that. This is the old EEPearl link, and you can see that it looks not that great. What I have here is I've designed a much better newsletter link. This is the newer version, which I replaced in the About the Author page. In my opinion, it looks a lot better. Once that's all set, I hit Save and Close, and I go through the process of approving my book. I want to go through and check the cover, check the interior. I want to make sure that the QR code that I think I applied correctly is exactly what I think it is, and it's the newest version. I'm going to review the basic book info that I approve at each step. Then I go through and check the interior. Again, I have to improve this at each step. I want to download this and check this final page includes the QR code I want, and not the one that was out there when this was first published. Then I approve the cover as well as the ebook that gets generated. And lastly, once I am absolutely sure that everything is included exactly as I want it, I go ahead and I approve the book. I'm going to click the button for Finish Book. Really important, this is the final chance to undo all the changes we made. Moving ahead by clicking the Proceed and Remove My Title's Availability means that temporarily my book will be unavailable for about 2 to 3 business days. I don't quite know how that works in terms of Amazon and all the other retailers' distributions, so I use this very selectively, and I only do it when I feel like I have to. At this point, I can cancel my revision and nothing will happen. It will undo all the changes. But if I want to move forward, it means that my book might not be available in the form that I want it for a few days. It will still show up in all those various retailers as available, such as Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I'm almost positive it'll be an older version, and this is a huge hassle, so I only try and make these revisions very sparingly. Once I hit continue, I'm taken to the final page that asks me to pay for everything. It takes a few minutes to load intentionally so that I don't move forward too quickly. You'll see right now that the price to revise my print book and ebook, the digital copy, is $0. I hit I agree and then I submit. And then I just sigh in relief. For the next few days, my book will be listed as processing. That means IngramSpark is looking through and making sure everything checks out, and that meets its own standards for approval. During this time, I cannot make any changes to my book as it's in this processing state. At the end of that 2 to 3 business days, I'll receive an email and I get one last chance to go through again and look at the cover image, the interior, the PDFs that get generated, and review it all to make sure it is exactly what I want. If it's not, then I can hit reject and I can go back through and make the changes I need to and then go through this process again of waiting 2 to 3 days. If it is, then I hit I approve and my book goes back to green and it can once again be distributed from IngramSpark. And I let out another sigh of relief. And once it's back in green, the title is listed as available. I can make changes now. I can place orders. I can do a lot of different functions within IngramSpark. Through IngramSpark, I can place orders to ship directly to myself if I want to go to, say, a conference and bring 20 or 50 books to try and sell there. As the very first thing on that place order page shows my address, I'm not going to walk through it, but it is a very simple process. Right now I can create custom orders and I can personalize them. I can ship them basic or however I want to do it, or I could send them priority mail and get them to me next day. There's one slight nuance though. If you're placing orders, say for advanced reader copies, where you need to check that you want the book to arrive before the publishing date, you can do an override and there's a little radio button right there. Unfortunately, Falling Through is already published and the second book in the series is not ready yet for that advanced reader copy, so I don't want to go through that process. Hey everyone, Editing Ben here, and I need to make some updates based on the changes that have occurred since I recorded this video. I made a lot of comments in this video about IngramSpark's reporting. As of last week or 2 weeks ago from when you're watching this video, all of it is now outdated. They overhauled their systems in the best possible ways. The legacy reporting system is still available, but they are greatly advertising their new reporting tabs and information. I'm still breaking down and understanding the new features, so I will need to create a follow-up video to the content here at some point. There's a 60-day delay in ebook sales, which is normal as that's based on Amazon. The information though is much clearer within IngramSpark, and the visual addition of these graphs is wonderful. It is so much crisper and easier to understand than the spreadsheet that I could download and have to parse through to try and make sense of what's going on. It is concise and presented in a way which I can readily use for marketing campaigns or to understand exactly how my sales went. That is everything for IngramSpark that I want to show, and hopefully it will help you make a decision whether or not you want to use IngramSpark or a different publisher, or I showed you some fun tricks that you didn't know about it before. Those are all my IngramSpark goodies and the steps I went through to publish Falling Through. I'm Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write. If you found my walkthrough of IngramSpark useful, then please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Let me know in those comments what tools you use to publish. Is it Amazon KDP, Draft to Digital, or any of the countless others? Are they easy to use, or do you stumble through it like I did with IngramSpark? I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Running to Write, so be sure to follow me and join in with your own thoughts. Don't forget to sign up for the Running to Write monthly newsletter for regular updates on my assorted musings, pitfalls, and lessons learned. The link is in the description below, and I'll be sending out the first 2 chapters of the sequel to Falling Through for those who sign up. See you next time. Until then, publish your novels using whatever method works best for you.